I can see in 4 dimensions. If that concept is a little hard to understand, I get it. It's hard to deal with too. While everybody in the world gauges their surroundings by way of height, width, and depth, I can see all that, and then some. It's really kind of hard to explain, really. I see in all the same qualities that you do, but it applies a bit differently. For example, if you were to show me a basketball, I can see all of it at once. Not just the one side that's facing me, but the entire sphere. Shadows? While they're cast on a 2-dimensional plane, such as the ground, to me they have depth and features. It truly is a unique experience to just be walking down the street and being able to watch people's shadows exist 3-dimensionally. While certainly being very different, this strange ability doesn't really hamper my life at all. I lead a relatively ordinary existence. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I work a typical 9-to-5 office job, Monday through Friday. I go out and do things with friends, and I love to go fishing. None of these things are overtly different in 4D. Be it a gift, a curse, or something in between, it was something I was born with. Ever since I could remember, I saw in 4D. I don't even know it was unusual, until I made a mention of something that no one else around me could perceive. That made for an awkward exchange at school. Later, my friends would take me to see 3D movies, which I have to say are rather underwhelming when you can already perceive beyond them. It was a waste of $3 extra, since for me, every movie is a 3D movie, in a way. Movies to me come across more like stage plays. I honestly don't know what it's like to view action on a 2D screen. People have always assumed that I'm making it all up, simply because they couldn't see what I saw. And I can't blame them, really. Kinda like people with tetrachromacy, who have extra rods and cones in their eyes, and can see colors that other people just can't see. Not gonna lie, I'm actually kinda jealous of those people. I mean, it must be cool to see all those other colors, but then how do you relay that information accurately to others? How exactly does one describe a color? It's just something that you have to experience through your senses, that you can then relate to other people's common experiences of. I figured there was something that some of you out there are wondering, and the answer is yes, I do dream in 4 dimensions as well. Dreams are oftentimes based on our experiences. That is how I experience the world. I've been asked to do lectures at universities and to write articles about my perceptions of the 4th dimension. I do enjoy those things, and I love fielding questions from inquisitive minds about it. I even got a pretty penny to do a big guest lecture at UC Berkeley. It was a physics class. I would always begin every lecture with the same bit about the 1st dimension doesn't truly exist, and the 2nd dimension was anything you could map out on X and Y axis. The 3rd dimension was how normal people perceive things, and can be mapped on the X, Y, and Z axis. The 4th dimension was how I saw things, and the 5th dimension was an R&B group from the 60s and 70s. That usually got a chuckle out of at least a few people. There is one major drawback to having this ability, however. That is that while I can perceive the 4th dimension, I am concerned what lies in it. I believe the reason people, by and large, cannot see in 4 dimensions is because there's stuff that we simply weren't meant to see and understand, as it would defy all comprehension. The scariest thing that I perceive on a regular basis is that when I look up at the night sky, I can see beings beyond our understanding, dwellers of dimensions beyond. They are large, powerful, horrid creatures that defy description. They lord over us, impassively watching our every move. I don't know if they know that I can see them. I imagine they do. I believe them to be the gods of our civilization. They mostly stay at bay, not moving all that much, just watching us. However, there's one thing that's been troubling me a lot recently. That being that when I look up at them, I often see them shaking their heads. If you've ever looked up at the sky and wondered what lay in the darkness beyond, I've seen what lives there. I've seen their amber eyes squinting at us in the dark. They do not seem pleased with humanity. Recently, the planet has been in a fair amount of turmoil, ranging all manner of societal problems. There are large amounts of political and civil unrest in many countries throughout the world. Several diseases have become far less curable and treatable, leading to a larger number of deaths. The one that strikes me the most, however, is that of what's going on in nature. Just last week, there were reports of extremely high winds knocking over trees and causing widespread power outages in parts of Western Europe. When I saw the news report on TV, where a field reporter was stood outside near a road and talking about the devastation, meanwhile the wind was still fierce, I noticed something large and looming in the background. It was a huge, gray, monstrous being that had to have been 40 feet tall, with dark, bark-like skin and 4 long, spindly arms, protruding from its body in all directions. Its face featured a gaping maw filled with long, sharp teeth and glowing amber eyes. It just hovered there, amidst the billowing gray clouds behind the reporters. It would open its mouth wide, and it would come a massive gust of wind. And with it would come a massive gust of wind. It was obvious that no one on the news team, not the reporter, cameraman, or producer, could see it, but I could. As crazy as it sounds, I think I know what I saw. I believe this was Mother Nature, or at least the being that humans have credited as such. It had been over a week that particular part of Europe had been without power, and the reports of the resulting unrest were disquieting, to say the least. People had resorted to stealing from their neighbors, with there even being one report of a man killing his elderly neighbor for what little food she had left in her cupboards. Things were swiftly getting out of hand. Another such incident involved a building catching fire in a large urban area. So far, there were no clues as to who may have started the fire, whether it was arson or electrical mishap, or anything really. Only when I watched the news report that night off in the distance, in the night sky, I saw a pair of the amber eyes that I had become accustomed to seeing. They sat upon a face that seemed rather pleased with itself. I couldn't be sure if that being had anything to do with the fire, but I had a sneaking suspicion that it did. However, the area in which I am most concerned is the political arena. In recent months, several major world powers have found themselves at impasses over issues of trade and foreign policy. A couple of nations have even begun talks of starting wars. That's the part I find to be the scariest. It all escalated last week, when one of these countries launched a nuclear missile over the land masses of a nearby island country that they had been quarreling with. When taken to task over this, the leader of said country claimed that they in no way authorized a nuclear strike against that, or any country, for that matter. I again have a hunch that whatever caused that missile to be launched came from beyond. I say hunch because it's hard to get people to believe you when you see things they cannot. And I saw something of the utmost disturbance recently. It started when I heard a siren, and I thought I would never hear in my lifetime. It was an air raid siren. My country was seemingly under attack. There were reports of foreign fighter jets infiltrating our airspace, and our missile defense system being down. This was it, I thought. Soon we all may be done for. I went outside and saw a set of 3 amber eyes looking down upon us through the clouds. I just stared up at the being for a while when I heard airplanes approaching. I looked to the north and saw 2 fighter jets flying south. Not long after, the southern horizon began to glow red. I knew what it meant. It was time to head inside. As I turned to walk back inside, I heard the sounds of planes approaching once more. This time it was 2 of our fighter jets, and as they soared across the sky, I noticed the entity reach down with its long reptilian arm from out of the ether, extending its 3-clawed hand and watching as it swatted the 2 jets out of the sky. It was a horrendous sight, and after that I retreated inside as fast as I could, to batten down the hatches. After making sure my wife and kids were safe, we headed to the crawl space. We emerged 3 days later to partially devastated surroundings. Reports said that we had been nuked and that war was imminent. The offending nation claimed no responsibility in the actions, claiming that the pilots who bombed us had been rogue pilots. I believe them. I know what caused this. I know what caused all of this. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. Either way, my country was vowed swift retaliation. And war is all but inevitable at this point. It wouldn't matter what claims I could stake. No one would believe me anyway. I'd probably just be thought of some nutcase, but those higher dimensional beings, those gods of sorts, they impact us in our daily lives more than we could ever comprehend. And now, bad things are coming. In summation, all I have to say is this. We are completely at their mercy. There is no stopping them. I don't know how much time we have left. I feel the apocalypse is fast approaching.